My name is Kyle, and 7 days before my wedding, I learnt that the woman I was supposed to spend my life with had already decided I wasn't the man she wanted. The strange part wasn't that Emily wanted to leave. The strange part was that she said it like she was doing me a favor. Kyle, please don't make this harder than it already is. I stared at her across the small coffee shop where we had planned our wedding meetings for the past 6 months. Harder, I repeated. Emily, we have a wedding venue booked. We sent invitations. My parents already flew in from another state. She looked away. I know, then explained to me how walking away a week before the wedding isn't hard. She sighed and lowered her voice. You're a good person, Kyle. That's the problem. I almost laughed. People always said things like that when they were about to hurt you. You're a good person. You deserve someone better. You'll find someone someday. All polite ways of saying I don't want you. What changed? I asked. Emily didn't answer immediately. That hesitation told me everything. There is someone else, isn't there? Her eyes moved toward the window. That was my answer. I leaned back slowly, trying to understand how 6 years could disappear in one conversation. Who is he? Kyle. Who? She finally looked at me. His name is Daniel. I knew that name. Daniel Brooks, the guy everyone at her company talked about, the confident executive. The man who wore expensive suits, drove a luxury car, and somehow made every room feel like it belonged to him. The opposite of me. I wasn't poor. I had a stable job, my own apartment, and I worked hard. But apparently hard work wasn't impressive anymore. I didn't plan this, Emily said. No. Then when did you decide you loved him? She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. That silence hurt more than the answer. I nodded. Okay, Kyle. No, it's fine. It wasn't fine, but I wasn't going to beg someone to stay. I had spent years trying to become the person Emily wanted. I changed jobs because she said my old one had no future. I saved money because she wanted a bigger house. I skipped vacations because she said we needed to prepare for our wedding. And somehow, after all that, I was still the wrong choice. She reached for my hand. I moved mine away. Not angrily, not dramatically, just enough to tell her something had changed. What are you going to do about the honeymoon? She asked quietly. That question almost made me smile. The honeymoon, the one thing she still cared about. We cancel it. She nodded. I think that's best. I looked at her for a few seconds. Then I said something even surprised me. No. She frowned. No, I'm going. Kyle alone, yes. She looked confused. Why? Because I was tired. Because for 6 years every decision I made involved someone else. Because I didn't want my last memory of that relationship to be sitting in a coffee shop while someone explained why I wasn't enough. I already paid for it, I said. That's not a reason. Maybe not. I stood up, but I think I deserve 1 week where I don't feel like I lost. And then I walked away. 3 days later, I was standing at the airport with 1 suitcase, a passport, and a honeymoon itinerary that no longer had a bride's name attached to it. People always imagine heartbreak as some dramatic moment. Someone crying in the rain, someone screaming, someone breaking something. For me it was quieter. It was checking into a flight originally booked for 2 people. It was seeing 2 seats next to each other. It was hearing the airline employee say, "Mr. Kyle Carter, just confirming you're traveling alone." I smiled slightly. Yeah. She looked at the screen. "Congratulations on your honeymoon package." I paused. Then I said, "Thank you." It felt strange accepting congratulations for something that had already ended. I walked toward the gate before she could say anything else. That was when I heard a familiar voice behind me, Kyle Carter. I turned around and immediately understood why everyone at my company became nervous whenever this woman entered a room. Victoria Hart, CEO of Hart Global, my boss's boss's boss, the woman who had built a billion-dollar company before turning 30. The woman employees described with 3 words. Brilliant, impossible, untouchable. She stood there wearing a simple black suit, holding a phone in one hand. Her expression was calm, almost too calm. "Miss Hart," she looked at my suitcase, then at the boarding pass in my hand, then back at me. "You're traveling alone?" I wasn't sure why, but hearing the same question from her felt different. Yes, for a honeymoon? I froze. How did she know? Then I remembered the entire company knew I was getting married. Everyone had received the wedding announcement. Everyone knew Emily's name. Almost everyone had congratulated me. Almost everyone. Victoria had only sent a short message. Congratulations, nothing else. I suppose the honeymoon became a solo trip, I answered. Her eyes narrowed slightly, meaning I hesitated. I didn't usually talk about personal problems with anyone, especially not my CEO, but something about her expression made me feel like she wasn't asking out of curiosity. She was actually listening. The wedding was cancelled. For the first time, Victoria Hart looked surprised. Not shocked, not emotional, just surprised. I'm sorry. 2 simple words, but coming from her, they felt unusual. You don't seem like someone who would cancel a trip because someone left. I looked at her. Is that supposed to be a compliment? It is. I almost smiled. Interesting. I thought compliments from you came with a performance review. A tiny change appeared on her face, almost a smile. Almost. You joke more than I expected, and you talk more than I expected. She raised an eyebrow. Do I? Usually you walk into meetings, destroy everyone's presentations, and leave. I don't destroy them. No, I improve them. I laughed. And that seemed to surprise both of us for a few seconds. Neither of us said anything. Then Victoria looked at the boarding gate. Same flight. I looked at her. You're going somewhere? Yes. Where? She looked directly at me. Hawaii. My expression changed. Hawaii, yes. The same destination, the same flight, the same week. A strange coincidence, or at least that's what I thought. She looked at my boarding pass again. Then she said something I never expected. Going without me. I blinked. What? Her expression remained calm, but there was something different in her eyes, a hint of amusement. You heard me. I looked around, wondering if I had somehow misunderstood. Miss Hart, I'm pretty sure you know this was supposed to be my honeymoon. I know, and there was supposed to be a bride. I know that too. Then why would you ask that? Victoria stepped closer, lowering her voice. Because Kyle, she paused. And for some reason, hearing my first name from her sounded different. Maybe you shouldn't have to spend a trip meant for happiness proving you can be alone. I didn't know what to say because the woman everyone thought had no feelings had just noticed something nobody else did. I wasn't afraid of being alone. I was afraid that after being left behind, I would forget what it felt like to be chosen. Then Victoria looked at me and said, Don't worry. I won't ruin your honeymoon. A small pause. Unless you asked me to. And for the first time since Emily left, I smiled. I spent the entire flight trying to convince myself that Victoria Hart, sitting 2 seats away from me, was nothing more than a coincidence, a very strange coincidence. My CEO happened to be flying to the same island on the same day, on the same flight, and somehow knew enough about my cancelled honeymoon to make a joke about it. It sounded ridiculous, even in my own head. I looked out the window and tried to focus on anything else. The clouds, the passing hours, the fact that I was supposed to be sitting next to Emily, that last thought kept returning. The airline had given me a seat originally booked for 2 people. Emily's seat was still empty beside me, a reminder of what was supposed to happen. I didn't realize I was staring at the empty seat until Victoria spoke. You keep looking at it. I turned. What? The seat? I looked away. I'm not. You are. I sighed. Do you always pay attention to everything? Yes. That sounds exhausting. It is. I looked at her. For someone who ran a company worth billions, she looked strangely tired. Not physically. Something deeper. Like she had spent years carrying everything alone. Then why do it? I asked. She looked at me. Why do notice everything? She was quiet for a moment. Because if I don't, people usually make decisions without telling me. That answer caught me off guard. It didn't sound like a CEO. It sounded like someone who had been disappointed before. Before I could respond, the flight attendant walked over. Mr. Carter, we apologize, but there was an issue with your honeymoon package. I frowned. An issue? Yes. The resort only has the honeymoon suite reserved under your original booking. Since the reservation was made for 2 guests, we need confirmation before check-in. I already knew where this was going. I can change it. The flight attendant nodded. Of course, however, there is a cancellation fee. I almost laughed. Of course there was. Everything about this trip seemed determined to remind me of what I had lost. Before I could answer, Victoria spoke. Keep it. I looked at her. What? The suite. I shook my head. No, that's not necessary. She looked at the flight attendant. The reservation remains unchanged. Miss Hart. She looked at me. You're going to spend the entire trip apologizing for something you didn't do. I didn't answer because she was right. I don't need your help. I know. Her response was immediate. That surprised me. Then why? Because accepting help isn't weakness. I looked away. Emily had always said I was too stubborn. Maybe she was right, but there was a difference between being stubborn and refusing to let someone pity you. I don't want you thinking I'm some abandoned guy you need to rescue. Victoria's expression changed slightly. Do I look like someone who rescues people? I almost smiled. No, good. She turned back toward the window. I don't rescue people, Kyle. Then what do? I invest in things that have value. I looked at her. Am I a company project now? No. She looked directly at me. You're a person. Something about the way she said it made me stop. Not employee, not assistant, not someone beneath her, a person. When we arrived at the resort, I expected things to become awkward. Instead, Victoria acted completely normal. She didn't follow me around, she didn't make unnecessary comments, she didn't pretend we were close. Honestly, that made it harder because I was used to people treating her like she was impossible to approach, but she treated me like I was someone worth talking to. At the front desk, the employee smiled. Mr. Carter, welcome back. Congratulations on your honeymoon. I opened my mouth. Before I could explain, Victoria stepped beside me. Thank you. I looked at her. She didn't correct them, she didn't explain, she simply accepted the greeting. Once we walked away, I lowered my voice. You could have told her. Why? Because it's not a honeymoon anymore. Victoria looked at me. According to who? I stopped walking. What? She faced me. The wedding was cancelled. The relationship ended. She paused, but the trip didn't. I didn't know why those words affected me. Maybe because everyone else had treated the entire thing like a failure. Victoria was the first person who treated it like something that still belonged to me. Later that evening, I sat alone at the hotel restaurant. I wasn't depressed. I wasn't crying. I was just thinking. That was when Victoria appeared. She was no longer wearing her CEO's suit, just a simple dress. For a second, I almost forgot she was my boss. Mind if I sit? I looked at the empty chair. You own half the hotels in this city. I don't think you need permission. A small smile appeared. I asked anyway. I moved my glass. Sure. She sat down. For a few minutes, we talked about normal things. Not business, not work, just life. I learned that she hated coffee, but drank it because everyone expected CEOs to drink coffee. She learned that I could cook 3 meals and somehow still burn toast. You burn toast twice. How? I don't know. For the first time, she laughed. Not a polite laugh, a real one. And I realized something. Nobody at the company had probably seen this side of her. The woman everyone feared was actually just someone who rarely felt comfortable enough to relax. Then she asked, "Do you miss her?" The question was direct, but not cruel. I thought about lying. I didn't. Sometimes. Victoria nodded. That's honest, shouldn't I? No. She looked at the ocean. People pretend they stop caring the moment someone hurts them. She paused. But feelings don't disappear because someone disappoints you. I looked at her. Is that your experience? For the first time that night, she hesitated. Maybe. I didn't push. That was something I noticed about Victoria. She controlled everything except the moments when she chose not to. The next morning, I woke up early. I planned to walk around the resort alone. I needed space. But when I opened the door, I froze. Victoria was standing outside holding 2 cups of coffee. I stared at her. Are you serious? She looked at the coffee. One is tea. That's somehow more surprising. She handed it to me. I remembered you don't drink coffee. I looked at the cup. She remembered a tiny detail. Something Emily hadn't noticed in years. Victoria. She looked at me. Yes. Why are you doing this? For a moment, her confident expression disappeared. Then she answered quietly, because yesterday you looked like someone who was trying very hard not to be hurt. I didn't speak, and I know that feeling. The silence between us changed. It wasn't awkward anymore. It was something else. Something I didn't understand yet. Then she tilted her head slightly. So Kyle, what are you going to spend your cancelled honeymoon avoiding happiness? I smiled. I don't know. Victoria took a sip of her tea. Then let me make a suggestion. What? Stop calling it cancelled. I raised an eyebrow. What should I call it? She looked at me. Our first day, and somehow the woman who had entered my life as my ice-cold co was becoming the first person in a long time who made me believe my story wasn't over. I spent the next few days trying to understand Victoria Hart. That was harder than understanding any business problem I had ever faced. At work, Victoria was simple. She made decisions quickly. She expected perfection. She never hesitated. People either admired her or feared her. But here, away from the office, she was different. She remembered small things. She listened when people spoke. She laughed at jokes that weren't even funny. And somehow that was more confusing than her being cold, because a cold CEO was easy to understand. A kind one wasn't. You're staring again. I looked up from my breakfast. Victoria was sitting across from me reading something on her tablet. I am not. You are. You always know when people are looking at you. She put the tablet down. Usually. That sounds like a problem. It is. I smiled. At least you're honest. She looked at me for a moment. That's one reason I like talking to you. I almost choked on my drink. You like talking to me? Yes. Why? Victoria seemed surprised by the question. Because you don't try to impress me. I laughed. That's because you're terrifying. Her eyes narrowed. Terrifying. Respectfully. Interesting. What? Most people try very hard to convince me they're valuable. She looked around the restaurant. Everyone wants something. And you think I don't? No. The answer came too quickly. I looked at her. Why? Because when you found out your wedding was cancelled, you still came here. I didn't understand. What does that prove? It proves you weren't chasing someone who left. She paused. You were trying to find yourself again. I looked down. I wasn't used to anyone seeing things that way. Most people had said I was being stubborn. Emily said I was refusing to accept reality, but Victoria saw something else. She saw a person who was tired of losing himself. That afternoon, we joined one of the resort activities. I wasn't sure why I agreed. Maybe because I wanted to prove I could still enjoy the trip. Maybe because Victoria had somehow convinced me that being alone didn't mean being lonely. The activity was supposed to be a simple sailing lesson. The instructor handed us equipment. Are you two celebrating something special? I opened my mouth. Before I could answer, Victoria said, yes. I looked at her. She continued, starting over. The instructor smiled. That's actually better than a honeymoon. I didn't know why, but those words stayed with me. Starting over, not replacing, not forgetting, starting. Later, when we were alone, I asked, why did you say that? Victoria looked at the water. Because it's true. You think I'm starting over. I think everyone deserves the chance. I watched her carefully, even you. She became quiet. That was the first time I realized something. Victoria Hart was very good at giving advice, but terrible at following it. You don't think you deserve a fresh start, do you? She looked at me. Careful, Kyle. Why? You ask dangerous questions. You're the CEO of a company. I'm pretty sure you've survived worse. A small smile appeared. Maybe. Then she looked away. I had someone once. I didn't expect that. Not because she wasn't attractive. She was. But because everyone assumed someone like Victoria didn't get hurt. They were wrong. He wasn't a good person, she continued. What happened? He liked what I could give him. Her voice became quieter. My family connections, my company, my reputation. I didn't interrupt. At first I thought he loved me. She smiled slightly. I was wrong. I understood that feeling. Maybe that was why her words affected me. Because we were different people who had lost in different ways. She lost someone who loved her status. I lost someone who stopped believing in me. What did you do? I asked. Victoria looked at me. I became someone nobody could hurt again. I frowned. Did it work? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. That night we walked along the beach. Not romantically, not like a couple, just two people talking. At least that's what I told myself. Then my phone rang. I looked at the screen. Emily, I hadn't heard from her since the breakup. Victoria noticed. You don't have to answer. I know, but I did. Kyle. Her voice sounded different, less confident. Emily, where are you? I looked at Victoria. Why? Because I heard you're in Hawaii. Yes, with Victoria Hart. I frowned. How did you know that? She ignored the question. Kyle, are you seriously trying to make me jealous? I almost laughed. What? You know what I mean? No, I don't. Kyle, this isn't like you. That sentence bothered me because it sounded exactly like something she would say before. Like she knew me better than I knew myself. Emily, what do you want? There was silence. Then I made a mistake. I closed my eyes. Of course. A week ago, I wasn't enough. Now I was suddenly a mistake she wanted to fix. I think we should talk. I don't think we should. Why? I looked at Victoria. She wasn't listening. She had stepped away, giving me privacy. That somehow made the decision easier. Because I already spent too long trying to convince you to choose me. Kyle, I don't want someone who comes back when they realize they lost something. The silence lasted several seconds. Then Emily asked, is this because of her? I looked at Victoria, the woman who had never asked me to choose her. The woman who never treated me like a backup plan. No. My answer surprised even me. It's because of me. I ended the call. When I turned around, Victoria was standing there. She had heard enough. I'm sorry for what that you had to go through that. I shook my head. I'm okay. She looked at me. You're always saying that because I am. No. Her voice was soft. You're surviving. I didn't know what to say. Then she stepped closer. Not too close, just enough. Kyle. Yeah, I want you to know something. What? I'm not here because someone else left. I froze because that was exactly what I had been afraid of. I don't want to be someone's second choice. Victoria looked directly into my eyes. You aren't, then why me? She was quiet for a few seconds. The powerful CEO disappeared. There was only Victoria, a woman trying to say something she wasn't used to saying because before anyone knew your name. She paused. I noticed you. I stared at her. You noticed me? Yes. When months ago, my heart skipped. Why didn't you say anything? She looked away. Because I was afraid. That shocked me more than anything. Victoria Hart was afraid of me. Afraid of what? She smiled slightly. That you would look at me the same way everyone else does. How? Like I'm someone impossible to love. I didn't have an answer, because in that moment I realized something. The Ice Queen everyone saw wasn't heartless. She was just waiting for someone to prove she didn't have to be. And somehow I had become that person. I didn't sleep much that night. Not because something bad happened. Actually, it was the opposite. For the first time in weeks, nothing was falling apart. And somehow that scared me more. I was used to fixing problems, fixing schedules, fixing mistakes, fixing things after people walked away. But Victoria Hart was not a problem to solve. She was a question I didn't know how to answer. The next morning, I found her sitting outside the hotel cafe. She was already working. Of course she was. Even on vacation, Victoria was still Victoria. A laptop, a phone, a dozen unread messages. I sat across from her. Do you ever stop working? She didn't look up. Do you ever stop worrying? I smiled. That's not an answer. Neither was yours. I laughed quietly. Then she closed her laptop. That surprised me. You actually stopped. Yes. Why? She looked at me. Because you asked. That simple answer hit harder than it should have. At work, people ask Victoria for things all the time. But nobody expected her to listen. Nobody expected her to care. I still can't believe you came here, I said. She picked up her tea. I told you. What? I needed a break. From what? She looked toward the ocean. From being the person everyone expects me to be. I understood that more than I wanted to admit. Everyone had an image of me too. The reliable boyfriend, the patient guy, the person who would always understand. Nobody asked what happened when I was the one who needed someone. Emily always said I was too comfortable. Victoria looked back at me. Comfortable. She wanted someone more ambitious. And do you believe her? I hesitated. Before I probably would have said yes, but now no. Why? Because I realized something. What? Someone can leave because they don't see your value. I looked at her. But that doesn't mean you don't have any. Victoria stayed quiet. Then she said, Good. I smiled. Good. Yes. She leaned back. You're finally starting to believe it. That afternoon I received a message from my company. A problem had come up with one of our biggest clients. Normally I would have handled it immediately. That was my job. But before I could reply, Victoria noticed my expression. Work? Yes. Bad? Potentially? She looked at me. What are you going to do? Handle it? She nodded. Then she asked, Are you going to apologize first? I frowned. What? You always do. I didn't answer because she was right. I had a habit of taking responsibility even when something wasn't my fault. Emily used to say it made me dependable. But sometimes I wondered if people just liked having someone else carry their problems. I opened my laptop. The issue was simple. A mistake had been made by another department, but the client was angry. My first instinct was to accept blame. Then I stopped. I wrote a different response. I explained the situation. I offered a solution, but I didn't take responsibility for someone else's mistake. Victoria read it, then nodded. Better. That's it. That's it. No criticism. No. I looked at her. Are you feeling okay? She almost smiled. I can criticize you if that makes you more comfortable. Actually, no. Good. She closed my laptop. You don't need someone constantly telling you what you're doing wrong. The way she said it felt personal, not about work, about life. That evening, something unexpected happened. Emily arrived at the resort. I knew before I saw her because the first thing I noticed was how strange it felt. A few weeks ago, seeing her would have made my entire world stop. Now it didn't. She walked toward me. Kyle. I looked at her. Emily. Her eyes moved to Victoria, then back to me. So, it's true. What? You really came here with her? I frowned. I came here alone, but she's here. Yes. Emily laughed softly. I can't believe this. Believe what? That you moved on this quickly. I almost smiled, because she still didn't understand. This wasn't about moving on. It was about finally moving forward. Emily, why are you here? Her expression changed. I wanted to talk. We already talked. No, you walked away. I looked at her because there was nothing left to say. She shook her head. You don't mean that. I do. Then she looked at Victoria. You don't even know him. Victoria remained calm. I know enough. Emily crossed her arms. Really? Yes. And what do you know? Victoria looked at me, then answered. I know he stayed loyal when nobody was watching. I froze. Emily said nothing. I know he works harder than anyone gives him credit for. Victoria continued. I know he doesn't need someone to make him valuable. Her voice became firmer. He already is. For the first time, Emily looked uncomfortable because those were things she should have known, things she should have said, things she never did. Kyle, Emily said quietly. Can we talk privately? Before I could answer, Victoria stood. I'll leave. I looked at her. She was actually going to walk away, not because she was afraid, because she respected my choice. That mattered. Victoria. She stopped. I looked at Emily, then back at Victoria. No. Both women looked at me. I took a breath. I don't need a private conversation. Emily's face changed. Kyle, I spent 6 years trying to explain myself to you. I shook my head. I'm done explaining why I'm worth choosing. The words felt different when I said them, stronger, like they belonged to me. Emily looked hurt, but I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. She didn't lose me because Victoria appeared. She lost me because she stopped seeing me long before that. After Emily left, I stood there silently. Victoria walked beside me. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. Why? I looked at her. Because I needed to hear myself say it. She smiled slightly. Then she did something I never expected. She reached out and fixed the collar of my shirt. A tiny gesture. Almost nothing, but it felt incredibly personal. Kyle, yeah. Do you know what your problem is? I laughed. That sounds like a CEO statement. It is. What is it? You spent so much time waiting for someone else to choose you. She looked into my eyes that you forgot you were allowed to choose too. I didn't know what to say because she was right. And standing there with Victoria, I realized something terrifying. I wasn't just grateful for her. I wasn't just comfortable around her. I was starting to want her. Not because she was powerful, not because she was beautiful, but because with her, I didn't feel like I had to prove I deserved to stay. And that was something I had never felt before. I thought the hardest part would be leaving Emily behind. I was wrong. The hardest part was accepting that I was actually happy again. For weeks I had convinced myself that happiness after heartbreak would feel like some huge victory, like waking up one morning and suddenly not caring anymore. But it wasn't like that. It happened quietly. A joke, a conversation, a moment when I realized I wasn't checking my phone hoping someone would regret leaving me. I was just living, and somehow Victoria Hart was the reason. Not because she saved me. She didn't. I saved myself. She was simply the first person who reminded me that I could. The next morning, Victoria surprised me. We're leaving. I looked up from my breakfast. What? She placed 2 tickets on the table. There's a small island nearby. No business meetings, no phone calls, no employees. I stared at her. You planned this? Yes. Why? She looked at me. Because you came here to escape a memory. She paused. I think you should create a better one. I looked at the tickets. A part of me wanted to refuse. The old Kyle would have. The old Kyle would have worried about what people thought. He would have wondered if it was inappropriate. He would have wondered if he was moving too fast. But the new Kyle was tired of living based on fear. Okay. Victoria raised an eyebrow. Okay, yes. No hesitation. Do you want me to hesitate? No, then don't look disappointed. For a second I saw it. A real smile. Not the polite one she used at company events. Not the small one she gave investors. A genuine smile. And I realized something. I wanted to see that smile again. The island was quiet. Not the kind of quiet that felt lonely. The kind that made you forget you were supposed to be somewhere else. For the first time in months, Victoria wasn't checking emails every 5 minutes. At least she tried not to. I caught her twice. You're working. She immediately closed her phone. I was checking something. You were replying to an email. That is checking something. I laughed. You are impossible. So, I've been told. Bye everyone, mostly. Do you care? She thought for a moment. No. I looked at her. That was a lie. She stopped walking. What? You care? Victoria looked surprised. You think you know me? I smiled. Maybe a little. She studied me, then quietly said, maybe you do. That evening we sat outside with dinner. No expensive restaurant, no formal event, just two people talking. I asked her something I had wondered since we arrived. Why didn't you ever date someone after what happened? Victoria looked at her glass. Because I didn't trust my own judgment. That answer surprised me. You didn't trust yourself? No, she sighed. I spent years building a company because numbers made sense. People don't. No. She looked at me. People say one thing and feel another. I nodded like Emily. Victoria didn't respond immediately. Then she said, yes. I looked at her. Are you worried I'll do the same? The question came out before I could stop it. Victoria's expression softened. Honestly, yes. I wasn't expecting that, she continued. Because I know what it feels like to finally let someone close. She paused, and then realized they only loved the version of you that benefited them. I didn't know what to say, because suddenly the woman everyone thought was untouchable looked incredibly human. I don't want you to choose me because I'm different from Emily. Victoria looked at me. I don't want to be the woman after her. The word surprised me. Then what do you want? She was silent for a long moment. Then I want to be the woman you choose when you aren't comparing anyone. That was the first time I understood. Victoria wasn't trying to replace Emily. She wasn't trying to win. She wasn't competing. She simply wanted something real. The next day we went shopping in a small town. Nothing fancy, no security, no assistance, no people recognizing her. At first Victoria seemed uncomfortable. Everyone treated her like a normal person, which should have been what she wanted. But I realized something. She didn't know how to be normal anymore. You look nervous. She looked at me. I am not nervous. You just looked at that cashier like you were negotiating $1 billion contract. I was deciding whether to buy something. Exactly. She rolled her eyes. You were enjoying this a little. Good. I stopped. Good. Yes. She smiled. I like seeing you relaxed. That sentence stayed with me because everyone else wanted me to become more impressive. Victoria liked me when I wasn't trying. That night, something happened that changed everything. We were walking back to the hotel when my phone rang. It was my company. This time it wasn't a normal problem. It was serious. A major client threatened to cancel a contract. My first instinct was to rush back. I need to leave tomorrow. Victoria looked at me. Do you want to? I stopped. What? Do you want to leave? I have responsibilities. That's not what I asked. I was quiet because she knew me too well. I wanted to help, but I also wanted to stay. For once, I wanted something for myself. I don't know. Victoria nodded. Then don't decide out of guilt. I looked at her. How do you always know what to say? She smiled. I don't really know. She looked away. I just know what I wish someone had told me. That answer hurt because it meant Victoria had been alone for a long time. I stepped closer. Victoria? She looked at me. You don't always have to be the strong one. For a moment she said nothing. Then quietly, neither do you. And there it was, the truth. We weren't saving each other. We were reminding each other that we didn't have to carry everything alone. The next morning, I made my decision. I handled the client problem remotely. I stayed. Victoria watched me finish the call. Then she asked, why did you stay? I smiled. Because I realized something. What? I spent years proving I could sacrifice everything for someone. I looked at her. Maybe it's time I learnt someone can choose me without asking me to disappear. Victoria didn't say anything, but her eyes changed. Then she whispered, Kyle. Yeah. After we go back, I waited. Will you let me take you on a real date? I laughed. You mean this wasn't a date? No. Then what was it? She thought for a second. A woman making sure a stubborn man remembers how to enjoy life. I smiled. And the real date? Victoria looked at me. The real date is when you know I'm not here because you're hurt. She stepped closer. I'm here because I want you. For the first time in years, I wasn't someone's backup plan. I wasn't someone's almost. I wasn't someone being left behind. I was someone being chosen. And the most surprising part was I wanted to choose her too. When we returned from Hawaii, I expected everything to go back to normal. That was my first mistake because normal didn't exist anymore. Not after Victoria Hart walked into my life and changed the way I saw myself. The airport was where everything started. A cancelled honeymoon, a lonely flight, a conversation I never expected. And now standing there with Victoria beside me, I realized something. I wasn't the same person who had boarded that plane. The old Kyle would have worried about rumors. He would have worried about what people thought. He would have worried about whether he deserved to stand next to someone like Victoria. The new Kyle had a different question. Was I happy? And for the first time in a long time, the answer was yes. The first problem came before we even reached the office. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Messages, emails, notifications. I checked the screen. Almost every department was talking about the same thing. Is Kyle Carter dating Victoria Hart? I froze. Victoria noticed. What happened? I showed her my phone. She looked at the messages, then calmly handed it back. People talk. That's your response. Yes, Victoria. You're the CEO and I'm just an employee. She looked at me. No. The way she said it was immediate, firm. You are not just anything. I didn't know what to say because she wasn't saying it to make me feel better. She believed it, and somehow that mattered more. When we arrived at Hart Global, the atmosphere was different. People weren't staring at Victoria, they were staring at me. I hated that, not because I cared about gossip, because I knew exactly what they were thinking. He must have used her, he must have gotten lucky. He must have found a shortcut. Nobody saw the years I spent working late, nobody saw the projects I saved, nobody saw the effort. They only saw Victoria standing beside me. I stopped outside my office. I should transfer. Victoria turned. What? I don't want people thinking I got here because of you. Her expression changed. Not angry, disappointed. Kyle, I mean it. No. I looked at her. No. She stepped closer. You're making the same mistake again. What mistake? Thinking other people's opinions are more important than your own truth. I was quiet. She continued. You are worried they won't respect you. Yes, then earn their respect. I frowned. I already do my job. Exactly. She looked at me. So why are you running? That hit harder than I expected. Because she was right. I wasn't protecting my career. I was escaping judgment again. That afternoon, the biggest client meeting of the month happened. The same client whose contract almost collapsed during our trip. The executives entered the conference room expecting Victoria. They didn't expect me. One of them looked surprised. Where is Miss Hart? Before I could answer, the door opened. Victoria walked in. Right here. Everyone stood. She took her seat, then looked at me. Kyle will lead this presentation. The room went silent. I looked at her. She didn't warn me. She didn't prepare me. She simply trusted me. I stood, and for the first time I stopped thinking about whether I belonged there. I focused on the work, the numbers, the strategy, the solution. 2 hours later, the client renewed the contract. Not because Victoria saved me, because I proved myself. After everyone left, I walked back into the office. Victoria was waiting. You did well, I smiled. That's all. She looked confused. What? I expected a CEO-level evaluation. She thought for a second. Fine. She picked up a folder. Your presentation was clear. Okay. Your negotiation was stronger than before. Good. You stopped apologizing for things that weren't your fault. I smiled. That's the important one, yes. She closed the folder. That was the one I wanted to see. Later that night, something unexpected happened. The board requested an emergency meeting. I immediately knew why. Victoria did too. They're going to question this about us? Yes. I looked at her. Are you worried? No. Not even a little. She shook her head. No. Then she added, but I know they will try to make you feel like you don't belong. I smiled. You really do know me. Yes. She looked at me, and that's why I won't let them. The boardroom was full. Executives, investors, senior managers, everyone watching. The chairman spoke first. Victoria, we need to discuss recent developments. She remained calm. I assume you mean the rumors. No one answered. That was their answer. One executive cleared his throat. Your relationship with Mr. Carter has created concerns. I expected Victoria to defend herself. Instead, she looked at me. Then she looked back at them. I agree. Everyone seemed surprised. I was too, she continued. There is a concern. The room became silent. The concern is that people here have failed to recognize Kyle Carter's value unless he is standing next to me. Nobody spoke. Victoria's voice became sharper. He was successful before anyone knew about this. He earned every position he received, and he will continue to succeed whether I am beside him or not. I looked at her because she wasn't protecting me. She was giving me the respect I had always wanted. Then one board member said, but emotions can affect business decisions. Victoria nodded. Correct. She paused. That's why I'm making this clear. Everyone waited. Kyle is not receiving special treatment. He is receiving the same opportunity everyone else should receive. Then she did something I never expected. She stood and said, "If anyone believes he is here because of me, they are welcome to challenge his results." No one moved because they couldn't. The results spoke. After the meeting, I followed her into the hallway. "Victoria," she turned. "Yes, you didn't have to do that." "I know. Then why?" She looked at me. "Because you spent too long standing alone while people questioned your worth." She paused. "I wanted you to know what it feels like when someone stands beside you." My chest tightened because that was exactly what I had needed. Not someone to fight my battles. Someone who believed I could win them. That evening we left the office together. Not secretly, not hiding. People saw us, and for the first time I didn't care. Victoria walked beside me. Then she suddenly stopped. "Kyle." "Yeah." She looked serious. "There's something I need to tell you." "What?" She took a breath. "The reason I noticed you wasn't because of Hawaii." I looked at her. "What do you mean?" Her expression softened. "I noticed you long before that. When months ago I stared at her. Why didn't you say anything?" Victoria smiled faintly. "Because I thought you belonged to someone else." I froze. Then she said, "And I promised myself I would never become the person who takes someone away." That was when I understood. Victoria Hart, the woman everyone thought wanted everything, had been the one person willing to wait, and suddenly the question wasn't whether she would choose me. It was whether I was brave enough to choose her back. I used to think the biggest moments in life came with warning. A proposal, a wedding, a major career change, something obvious, something you could prepare for. But I learned something after meeting Victoria Hart. The moments that changed you usually happened quietly. A conversation, a decision, a person standing beside you when everyone else walked away. And that was exactly what Victoria had become. Not my replacement for Emily, not the person who fixed my broken heart. She was the person who reminded me I had won. A week after the board meeting, I started planning something. I didn't tell anyone, not my friends, not my co-workers, not even Victoria. Especially not Victoria, because for once I wanted to surprise her. The funny thing was, Victoria Hart was almost impossible to surprise. She knew everything. Business numbers, employee schedules, market changes. She could walk into a room and immediately understand what everyone wanted. But there was one thing she didn't know, how much she had changed my life. And I wanted her to know, not because I owed her, because I chose her. There was a difference. I returned to the same resort where everything started, the same place where I arrived with a cancelled honeymoon, the same place where I thought my life had ended. Now I was standing there with a completely different reason. The manager recognized me immediately. "Mr. Carter, welcome back." I smiled. "Thank you." He looked around. "Are you here alone again?" I laughed. No, this time I didn't feel embarrassed saying it, because I wasn't the man who had been left behind anymore. I was the man who had found someone. When Victoria arrived, she immediately knew something was different. She stepped out of the car and looked at me. "What did you do?" I smiled. "Hello to you two." She ignored the joke. "Kyle, what? You planned something?" I laughed. "How did you know?" "You have a specific expression." "A specific expression?" "Yes." "What expression?" "The one where you're trying not to smile because you think you're hiding something." I couldn't help laughing. "You really do notice everything." "Yes, that's terrifying. Yet you keep coming back." That sentence made me stop because she was right. I did keep coming back. Not because she was powerful, not because she was my CEO, because being around her felt like home. We walked through the resort together. I showed her the places where everything changed. The restaurant where we first talked. The path where she told me she didn't want to be someone's second choice. The place where I realized I wasn't afraid of love. I was afraid of being forgotten. Victoria listened quietly. Then she said, "You remember everything." I looked at her. "Of course. Why?" I smiled. "Because it mattered." She became quiet. Then she looked away. That was something I had learned about Victoria. She could face angry investors without blinking. But genuine affection, that was harder. Later that evening, I brought her to the beach. The same beach where she first admitted she was afraid. She looked around. "Kyle, yeah, what is this?" I took a breath. The place where I came after losing everything. Her expression changed. "I didn't lose everything." She looked at me. "You lost a future you imagined." I nodded. "Yeah." Then I smiled. "But I found a future I actually want." Victoria didn't speak. For once, Victoria Hart had no words. I reached into my pocket. Not a ring, not yet, just something simple. The old honeymoon reservation card, the one with 2 names printed on it. Kyle Carter, Emily Brooks. I had kept it because I thought it represented failure. Now I realized it represented something else. A chapter that ended. I tore it in half. Victoria looked surprised. Kyle, I used to think this was proof that someone left me. I looked at the paper, but now I think it was proof that something better could happen after. I let the pieces fall. Then I looked at her. Victoria, she looked at me. I don't want you to sit in someone else's place. Her eyes softened. I don't want you to be the woman who replaced someone. I stepped closer. I want you to be the first person I choose. For a moment, the powerful CEO disappeared. There was only the woman I had gotten to know. The woman who laughed quietly. The woman who drank tea because she hated coffee. The woman who remembered everything about me. Kyle, I know you're used to controlling everything. She smiled slightly. That is true, but I need you to know something. What? I don't need you to prove you're worth loving. Her expression changed. I already know. The next morning, Victoria did something unexpected. She took me somewhere, a small jewelry store. I looked at her. What are we doing here? She walked inside. You said you wanted me to be the first person you choose. Yes, then I want you to understand something. She looked at the jewelry displays. I don't want a proposal because you feel grateful. I nodded. I don't want a wedding because I'm better than someone else. She looked at me. I want it because when you wake up tomorrow and the day after that and 10 years later, she paused, I want you to still choose me. That was Victoria. Even in the most romantic moment, she wasn't asking to be worshipped. She was asking to be loved. 3 days later, we returned home. Things were different, not because everyone knew, not because people stopped talking, because I stopped caring. But there was one thing left, the wedding, my wedding, the one that never happened. Except this time it wouldn't be about proving anything. No huge performance. No trying to impress people. Just 2 people choosing each other. A month later, I stood outside the venue. My hands were shaking, not because I doubted Victoria, because I understood the importance of the moment. Emily and I had planned a wedding because we were supposed to. Victoria and I were having one because we wanted to. That difference changed everything. Then she appeared, and for the first time I saw Victoria Hart completely without armor. No CEO expression, no perfect control, just a woman looking at me. She walked toward me, then whispered, "Still think going without me was a good idea?" I smiled. Actually, I looked at her. "I think it was the best mistake I ever made." She smiled, and that was when I knew the cancelled honeymoon wasn't the end of my love story. It was the moment before I met the person who would finally take the bride's seat, the seat that had always been waiting for her. I used to think a wedding was about the moment everyone watched you, the ceremony, the photos, the promises, the perfect image. But standing there with Victoria, I realized I had been wrong. A wedding wasn't about proving anything to the world. It was about finding the one person you wanted beside you when nobody else was watching. And somehow, after everything that happened, that person was Victoria Hart. The ceremony was simple. That was exactly how she wanted it. No massive headlines, no business executives sitting in the front row, no cameras waiting outside. Victoria could have turned our wedding into the biggest event of the year. She didn't. When I asked her why, she just smiled. Because I don't want people remembering our wedding because of my name. She looked at me. I want them remembering it because of ours. That was Victoria. She had spent her entire life building a name everyone knew, but when it came to us, she only wanted something real. Before the ceremony started, I found her alone. She was standing near the window looking at the guests arriving. I walked closer, nervous. She turned. "No." I smiled. "That was too fast." She sighed. "Fine." A small pause. "Yes." I laughed. "Victoria Hart is nervous. Don't make it sound so shocking. It is shocking." She crossed her arms. "I negotiate billion-dollar deals. Yes, I face angry investors. Yes, I make decisions that affect thousands of employees. Yes." She looked at me, but I smiled. "You get nervous marrying one guy." For a moment she looked embarrassed. Then she admitted, "Because this matters more." That answer stayed with me because for the first time I realized something. I wasn't the only one who felt lucky. Victoria Hart, the woman everyone thought had everything, was standing there feeling the same fear I had, the fear that something this important could disappear. I reached for her hand. "Hey." She looked at me. "I'm not going anywhere." Her expression softened. "Promise." I smiled. "You're the CEO." You know better than anyone that contracts need signatures. She laughed, a real laugh, and I knew everything was going to be okay. After the ceremony, we finally took the trip that was supposed to happen months ago, our honeymoon, the one that started as a reminder of a broken relationship. Now it was something completely different. No old memories, no empty seat, no cancelled plans, just us. When we arrived at the same resort, the manager greeted us. "Welcome back, Mr. and Mrs. Carter." This time I didn't feel uncomfortable this time. The words felt right. Victoria looked at me. "Mr. and Mrs. Carter." I smiled. "Sounds strange, does it? Not bad. Strange." She raised an eyebrow. "Then what kind?" I thought about it. "The kind where I can't believe it happened." She looked at me. "Neither can I." That night, we sat outside the same restaurant where we had our first real conversation. The same place where Victoria asked me if I was going to spend my cancelled honeymoon avoiding happiness. I looked around. It's funny. What? 6 months ago, I was sitting here thinking my life was over. Victoria held my hand, and now I looked at her. Now I think that was just the day before everything changed. She smiled. "That's a very optimistic way to look at being left at the altar." I laughed. "I learnt from someone." "Me?" "Yes." She looked surprised. "Really?" "Yes." I leaned closer. "You taught me that losing something doesn't always mean losing." Victoria was quiet. Then she said, "You taught me something too." "What?" "That people don't have to earn the right to be loved." I looked at her. She continued, "I spent my whole life believing I had to be perfect. Perfect CEO, perfect daughter, perfect leader." She squeezed my hand. "But you never looked at me like I was a title." I smiled because you weren't. Then what was I? I thought for a moment. My wife. The smallest smile appeared on her face, but I saw it, the one she tried to hide, the one that only appeared when she was truly happy. A few days later, we returned home. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. That was something I appreciated. Real love wasn't about never having problems. It was about facing them with someone who stayed. There were disagreements, different opinions, busy schedules. Victoria still worked too much. I still worried too much, but now, when something happened, we talked. We didn't run. We didn't replace each other. We chose each other. Every day, one evening, months after our wedding, I came home late. I expected Victoria to be working. She always was. Instead, I found her sitting on the couch. No laptop, no phone, just waiting. I looked at her. "Are you okay?" She nodded. "Yes." "Then why are you sitting here?" She smiled. "I was waiting for you." I laughed. "That sounds suspiciously normal. Is that a problem?" "No." I walked over and sat beside her. "Actually, I like it." She leaned against me. "You know something?" "What?" "I never thought I would be happy doing something as simple as waiting for someone to come home." I looked at her because you were always alone. She nodded slightly because I thought needing someone meant weakness. I held her hand and now she looked at me. "Now I think finding the right person is strength. Sometimes people ask me if I regret that my first wedding was cancelled. They expect me to say no immediately, but the truth is different. I don't regret it because if that wedding had happened, I might have spent my entire life wondering what it felt like to be truly chosen. I might have stayed with someone who loved the idea of me, but not me. I might never have met Victoria, the woman who walked into my cancelled honeymoon and took the bride's seat, the woman who didn't save me, the woman who stood beside me while I saved myself, the woman who once asked going without me, and years later still asks the same question whenever I make plans. Only now my answer is always the same, no, because wherever I go, I want her there. My wife, my partner, the person I choose every single